Welcome back YouTube to another video from TheSlamDuncan channel. This is Duncan White, and in this video, let's just catch up on some of the recent NBA headlines and kind of talk about some NBA teams that are going through either some drama or kind of need to make some moves. But before we get into any of that though, make sure you leave a like on this video, subscribe to my channel for more NBA content, and also follow me on Twitter at Duncan_White14. Also in the comments section down below, go ahead and leave some suggestions for me for future videos. You gotta give some advice or go ahead and give me some NBA topics that you would like to hear me talk about. With that though, let's get right into the video. Should the Charlotte Hornets trade Kemba Walker, or should the Charlotte Hornets trade for someone to pair alongside Kemba Walker? So with the Charlotte Hornets right now, it's very difficult to kind of gauge where they're going to be. I mean, I think we all kind of know, though, that they're not going to be like a horrible team, and they're not going to be a top 5 team, not going to be a top 4 team in the East. But we do kind of know there could be somewhere in between. They could either get like the 5th seed in the East, but they can also be out of the playoffs, just barely miss the playoffs. Obviously, if you've been watching basketball recently, Kemba Walker's been on fire and just been carrying the Hornets to either victories or just keep them in the game. He had 60 points against the 76ers while the rest of the team had 59, and they lost the game because Jimmy Butler hit the 3. And then the next game, Kemba Walker had 43 points, and they won that game, thankfully. But this man just scored 103 points in 2 games. You should have won both, but not to mention that, they were both close games. And Tony Parker, thank God, saved the Hornets at the end of the second game, and the Hornets won. So I feel bad for Kemba because he's the 5th highest paid player on the Hornets right now. He's only getting $12 million this year. Bismack Biyombo, who's a bench warmer, gets $17 million, and that's absurd. But anyway, though, because the fact that Kemba Walker is only getting $12 million a year, $12 million this year, the Hornets can trade that contract very easily and pick up some other player. However, do you really want to do that, though? If you're Michael Jordan, do you want to strip down what you've just built and, just trade your franchise player? Or do you want to go out and get another player to pair alongside Kemba Walker? Bradley Beal right now, and really the entire Washington Wizards team, is up on the trade market. So if my opinion, I would love to see Bradley Beal go to the Hornets. I don't know how the Hornets can really do that, though, because they got Nicholas Batum, who's on a bad deal. It's going to be hard to kind of match the contracts, especially because Washington is so far in over the cap and into the luxury tax. So they don't have much flexibility. But I would love to see the Hornets make that trade for Bradley Beal, or at least somebody else to, give Kemba Walker a second scorer, because none of the other wings that they have can really score. They don't have a big man that can score. I mean, it's just Kemba Walker carrying that team right now. And I feel very bad for Kemba, but in my opinion, because the East is so weak, and Kemba says he wants to stay there, and I think he will sign an extension. But the Hornets better give him the max. But because I think he's going to stay there, if I'm the Hornets, I'm going out and getting another all-star to pair alongside him. Should the 76ers trade Markelle Fultz? Let me start out by saying that this situation for the 76ers and Markelle Fultz has been probably one of the weirdest situations ever in NBA history. I cannot believe how this man, who was the consensus number 1 pick in 2017, got drafted number 1. He played very well in Summer League. He played very well in college at Washington. Granted, it wasn't like he, was a fantastic, you're like, oh, it's once in a generational type player. But he was good at Washington. And it drives me insane that he was a good 3-point shooter in Washington, had a good shot, was able to get his own shot. He showed that in Summer League, but then he comes back for training camp, and all of a sudden he can't shoot. his jump shot's all messed up, and there's so many different storylines now. It's like, oh, but his shoulder blade's messed up, or now he has a wrist injury apparently, and there's so many different variables that I don't know which one to believe. Like, I don't know what storyline to believe, what's actually true. There's so many different scenarios that you're just like, well, which is right? So, like, as fans, we were just kind of like, we don't know what's actually going on here. So, this is a very hard question, but in my opinion, the 76ers need to at least make a decision soon. And that's either you make sure that Markelle Fultz is part of your future, or you trade him, right? Like, you have to make a defined decision soon. Now, with the 76ers, though, if you're going to keep Markelle Fultz, which, to be honest, I kind of want them to, I would send Markelle Fultz down to the G League. But the only reason why, like, if you kind of think about it, the only reason why he's even up in the NBA right now and playing, well, now he's out of the rotation, but when he was playing, the only reason why he was playing is because of the fact that he was the number 1 overall pick. So because of that, he gets to stay in the NBA. But let's say he was the 20th pick overall. He would not be in the NBA. He would be down in the G League. So if you're the 76ers, if you're going to keep him, you have to. I think it'd be worthwhile to send him down to the G League and help him gain confidence. If you're going to trade him, though, you're going to have to find something valuable back, because you're going to need a point guard that can, or a guard, I should say, because Ben Simmons runs point. But you're going to need another guard that can create his own shot. And it has to be someone young that fits within the 76ers core. In my opinion, though, as of right now, and I'm recording this on November 24th, it's Saturday, I would keep Markelle Fultz right now, because you don't know, you don't want to be that team to, trade him, and all of a sudden he'd be like, he recovers everything, and it's like, oh, well, why did you trade him then? You don't want to give up on him after just 1 year. While there are risks to the other side, I think it's really worth trying to just go through the process with him. Let's reevaluate this. Should we trade Markelle Fultz? Let's say, after his rookie contract's over, and so if I'm the 76ers, I'm keeping Markelle Fultz, but I would send him down to the G League immediately to help him regain confidence and have the ball in his hands for once, because Ben Simmons and Embiid are ball hogs, but that's what the 76ers need to do. So I would send Markelle Fultz down to the G League and try to figure out offense, try to help him figure out his offense, and then bring up his confidence, and then bring him back up and try to bring him back into the group. So there's been a recent article on Bleacher Report talking about Anthony Davis and his future. And the headline says, though, that Anthony Davis is considering the Celtics and the 76ers to be teams that he'd be interested in for the future. And it's kind of weird to hear that, because, I really wasn't thinking of Anthony Davis to be traded this season. I thought because the Pelicans had such a good run in the playoffs that he would stay with the Pelicans. And with Drew Holiday now becoming a great player, I thought he would probably stick around. And Julius Randle's played so well there, and Mirotic, I think, fits very well. Unfortunately, though, for the Pelicans, they just don't have any flexibility right now, so they can't really go out and get another player. And Alfred Payne's out, so in the really tough Western Conference, it is kind of difficult for the Pelicans. But I thought because Davis is from the playoff run, and it's his only team he's been on, I thought this wouldn't even be a discussion. But now it's apparently becoming a discussion. It's not very major, but I thought it's something to look at. So thinking about it, should the Celtics trade for Anthony Davis? The Celtics are struggling, and they're starting to have issues. I'm not like I said, I am a little bit concerned, and I am, but they just lost tonight to Dallas. But I think the Celtics, they're gonna figure out eventually. I'm just worried that from this slow start that it's just gonna get worse. but I don't think that's going to happen. However, now because this Anthony Davis discussion is in play, do you go out and trade for him? And if so, who do you trade? We all know Danny Ainge is going to be willing to trade anybody for the right price to get a star like Anthony Davis. We saw Danny Ainge trade Isaiah Thomas for Kyrie Irving, and I 100% agree with that move. I thought that was a great move. But even though Isaiah Thomas just played in the playoffs when his sister just died, it looks bad. You're like, this man just fought through one of the hardest points of his life and still played for you, but then you just go and trade him. Well, remember, the NBA is a business, so that includes probably trading Kyrie Irving if it comes to that point. If you're Danny Ainge, but in all honesty, though, if you trade Kyrie Irving, then I think the Celtics really fall no matter who they get back. So if you do trade for Anthony Davis, I wouldn't be surprised to see either Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown, either one of those two, maybe both, and potentially a first-round pick or two for Anthony Davis. So that's with the Celtics, though. The other team that was listed was the 76ers, and I thought that was kind of interesting because they already have Joel Embiid there, so you don't need another big man. And I'd be very interested to see how that would work, almost to in a bad sense. I don't think that would really work. Having two dominant big men, not to mention then Ben Simmons, who's a big point guard who can't shoot, and Jimmy Butler also is not a good shooter. He's a decent shooter, but not a good shooter. So the floor spacing, while Anthony Davis can make threes, Jimmy Butler can make threes, Embiid can make threes, it's going to still be everyone's going to be trying to attack the paint mostly. And if I'm the 76ers, I would not do this. I don't see the point in it. Does it fit on your timeline? I guess, because Anthony Davis is still relatively young, but I would roll with Embiid and Simmons and Butler from now on. I'm saying for the 76ers, it's next year. I know everyone's saying they're contenders this year, and I agree with that, but I think Toronto and then eventually Boston is going to be so much higher than the 76ers this season. Come next season, though, that's a different story because the 76ers have cap space, especially now that they traded for Jimmy Butler. They got his bird rights, so they can go sign another max player and then re-sign Jimmy Butler and go over the cap. So if I'm the 76ers, I would not break up any of your core, especially Embiid and Simmons. I would not trade any of them for Anthony Davis right now because I think it will kind of mess things up, especially just because the fact that you're gonna have two dominant big men on your team. What do the Washington Wizards need to do? Basically, it's blow it up. The issue is, though, how can you blow it up? John Wall's Supermax deal kicks in next year, and I think it's for $38 million a year. I may be wrong with that, but it's a stupid amount of money. And for someone like John Wall, who now his reputation has declined, and he's not a great three-point shooter, and while he is still a dynamic point guard and could still be a great point guard, we've seen all the chemistry issues now, and because of that, I don't know if any coach would want to coach him, and I don't know if any team would want to take on that big contract, especially when he's probably going to get over $40 million come at the end of his contract, and he may be in his early mid-30s at that time, and not worth that money. So it's a tough situation right now if you're Washington, because you've already made it clear this season's been horrible. You want to blow it up. No moves have been made so far, and it's November 24th. So you need to start making moves, and the one player that can get you a lot of value back is Bradley Beal that you can trade. He's younger than John Wall, he's a better shooter than John Wall, and he's making less money than John Wall. You can trade Bradley Beal and get good return back. The issue now is the fact that because you've already made it clear to the entire league that you're blowing it up, teams aren't going to give you their best offer for Bradley Beal immediately. You need to start making a bidding war between other teams. I'm kind of shocked that I haven't heard much about the Wizards calling other teams saying, "Hey, what would you give us for Bradley Beal?" And I'm just shocked to not hear any of that because I think he can bring back some serious value, picks, young players, and some just solid role players that you can have on a team during a rebuild. Unfortunately, I think if you're Washington, John Wall's just kind of stuck with you. You gave him that money. No team wants him. No team wants to coach him. No team wants to deal with him, and you're just gonna have to deal with it. And it's kind of bad because if you're gonna rebuild, you kind of want to tank, and if you have John Wall, you're gonna be kind of fringe playoff team, unfortunately. Maybe not fringe playoff team, but you're gonna get more wins than you probably want to, because you probably want a better pick. Also, if you're Washington, you're stuck with Otto Porter. Otto Porter has been very bad, I think, especially when he got that deal. And then that contract that he has, I think he has a 25% trade kicker, or if you trade Otto Porter, he gets 25% more money basically that the other team has to pay that will take him. So it's hard to move Otto Porter, one because of his contract, and two because he just isn't playing very well. And if you're Washington, it kind of sucks that you got in that type of deal because you're kind of forced to, because you had no flexibility and you had to re-sign him. Other than that, though, if you're Washington, you really have not much other value. I think Markelle Fultz you can trade him for some value because he can go to a contender, have a good bench role or potential starting role. But other than that, you really don't have much value that you can really work with and restart and hopefully get a good pick this draft or in the next draft. And on that note, I'm going to end the video here right now. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Make sure you leave a like on the video, subscribe to my channel for more NBA content. Also follow me on Twitter at Duncan_White14. For question to answer, so you can either leave that in the comment section or you can at me on Twitter. Who's the best team right now in the NBA as of November 24/November 25th? Who's the best team right now? Who's playing the best right now in the NBA? I don't want to talk about, the Warriors are struggling right now. So I don't want to talk about injuries. I don't want to talk about the future. Who's the best team in the NBA right now? All right, go ahead and answer that question in the comment section or go ahead and send me a tweet on Twitter. This is Duncan White, signing off for now.